It's June 19th, 2005, and the wider American public is yet to learn of the existence of a highly classified U.S. military data mining program that supposedly identified 4 of 19 9/11 terrorists. This top-secret military planning effort claims to have known of the potential threat that the 9/11 ringleader and pilot hijacker of American Airlines Flight 11, Mohamed Atta, and his other 3 associates posed for the security of civilians within the United States, as far back as early 2000. For over 20 years, members of this exclusive club have insisted their warnings were ignored by the FBI and the CIA, dismissed as baseless and sidelined, all while Atta and the remaining 18 terrorists planned what would become the deadliest terrorist attack on U.S. soil. You're watching The Dig, and this is the story of Able Danger. The slow but steady increase in both international and domestic terrorism on American soil throughout the 1990s had motivated the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, Hugh Shelton, to issue a directive in early October of 1999 to form a classified military program that would monitor various terrorist cells within the United States. Led by the U.S. Special Operations Command, SOCOM, and the Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, Able Danger's main goal was to identify potential al-Qaeda operatives inside the United States and thwart the spread of international terrorism on U.S. soil. According to Curt Weldon, a Republican congressman from Pennsylvania's 7th District between 1987 and 2007, who publicly advocated for the program's supposed findings, Able Danger identified not only the 9/11 ringleader, but also the pilot hijacker of United Airlines Flight 175 that crashed into the South Tower of the World Trade Center, Marwan al-Shahi, and 2 muscle hijackers aboard American Airlines Flight 77, which crashed into the Pentagon, Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi. Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer, Captain Scott Philippot, and Major Eric Kleinsmith, former Able Danger members, also backed Weldon's claim that the group produced a chart as early as late 1999 that included the names of the aforementioned 9/11 terrorists, as well as the names of other suspects connected to the Brooklyn cell, led by the blind sheikh Omar Abdelrahman. Prior to June 2005, only the intelligence community and actual Able Danger members were aware of the program and its goals. But when Keith Pukas, a reporter for the Times-Herald, a Norristown, Pennsylvania daily newspaper, wrote an article on the program, Americans had questions. Why didn't intelligence agencies do anything with the information provided by Able Danger? How come the program had very little to no documentation about their findings? And why is the American public being notified of this only now? To understand why Able Danger's supposed findings were ignored and sidelined, we need to understand what the relationship between the FBI and the CIA was like prior to September 11th. According to Weldon and former Able Danger members, backed by U.S. Attorney Andrew McCarthy, prior to 9/11, quote, Able Danger intelligence was suppressed as a result of a policy of forbidding the CIA and FBI to share intelligence known as the Wall, end quote. Nowadays, the Wall is considered as one of the main reasons why intelligence agencies were unable to foresee or prevent the September 11th attacks. Famously, the Phoenix Memo, mailed by Special FBI Agent Kenneth Williams, which warned of a number of suspicious individuals attending civil aviation schools in Phoenix from July of 2001, and the August 2001 President's Daily Brief prepared by the CIA titled "Bin Laden Determined to Strike in the U.S." were both ultimately ignored since each came from the other agency. Former intelligence analyst Michael Morell explains in his 2015 book titled "The Great War of Our Time: The CIA's Fight Against Terrorism, from Al-Qaeda to ISIS," that the Department of Defense, DoD, responsible for military intelligence and in close cooperation with the CIA, all while harboring serious competitive tendencies towards the agency, consider the aforementioned reports to be a, quote, deception technique used by Al-Qaeda to incentivize the U.S. government to expand resources in response needlessly, end quote, so nothing was done. This, alongside the fact that the FBI completely ignored Williams's warning, have seriously set back the agency's counterterrorism efforts. The two intelligence agencies had a cold adversarial relationship, which limited effective counterterrorism coordination leading up to the attacks. Considering the CIA is mainly focused on foreign intelligence and overseas operation, and the FBI is a domestic law enforcement agency, the two often clashed over whether terrorism should be treated as a military/espionage problem under the CIA or a law enforcement/criminal problem under the FBI. The then Attorney General John Ashcroft, who testified during the 9/11 Commission hearings, asserted that the wall was further reinforced by Jamie Gorelick, the Deputy Attorney General during the Clinton administration. This claim was since disputed by former Republican Senator and member of the 9/11 Commission, Slade Gorton, who insisted Gorelick's policy changes hadn't influenced the sharing of information, and that the wall, a long-standing policy introduced as part of the intelligence reforms following the Church Committee investigations in the 1970s, simply allowed certain information to be shared from prosecutors to intelligence services, but not the other way around. As for the reason why Able Danger members had little to show for their claims, there are multiple explanations. The DIA had begun destroying data as early as May and June of 2000, and according to Major Eric Kleinsmith, he was tasked with deleting 2.5 terabytes of data. Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer talked extensively of DIA's efforts to, quote, destroy mine data, source databases, charts, and documents, end quote, and went as far as to, quote, prevent key personnel from testifying to both the Senate Judiciary and Senate Intelligence Committees, end quote, during their December 2006 investigation into the Able Danger claims. In response to Pukas' article and an increasing amount of criticism towards Able Danger, Weldon, as vice chairman of the House Armed Services and House Homeland Security Committees, gave a special orders speech on the House floor on June 27, 2005. In Weldon's words, quote, the lawyers in the Clinton administration at that time said, you cannot pursue contact with the FBI against that cell. Mohamed Atta is in the U.S. on a green card, and we are fearful of the fallout from the Waco incident, so we did not allow that federal agency to proceed, end quote. Soon enough, Weldon would begin changing his story altogether, from claiming that he personally presented the only existing copy of the chart to then Deputy National Security Advisor Stephen Hadley just days after 9/11, and maintaining that Able Danger identified Atta up to 13 times prior to the attacks, to claiming he doesn't even remember if Atta's name was ever on that chart, both prior and following 9/11. The credibility of statements given by Able Danger members has also been scrutinized in recent years. Schaefer details in his 2010 book titled Operation Dark Heart that Able Danger had recognized the threat of the Brooklyn cell already in January of 2000, and recounts Captain Philippid pointing out Atta's photograph, describing him as a, quote, scary-looking dude, end quote. In an August 2005 interview that Schaefer gave to Government Security News, GSN, he claimed the CIA was heavily opposed to Able Danger's work. Schaefer told the CIA that the program would, quote, not be competing with the CIA's own separate mission to find and kill Osama bin Laden, end quote. As stated by Schaefer, a CIA operative told him that, quote, CIA will never provide that, as in counterterrorism information, to you, because if you were successful in your effort to target Al-Qaeda, you would steal our thunder. Therefore, we will not support this, end quote. Although Schaefer maintained he had shared the program's findings with the 9/11 Commission, the claim was ultimately disputed by former vice chair and former spokesman of the 9/11 Commission, Lee H. Hamilton and Alvin S. Felsenberg, respectively. Hamilton and Felsenberg addressed the claims publicly and said, quote, the September 11th Commission did not learn of any U.S. government knowledge prior to 9/11 of surveillance of Mohamed Atta or of his cell, end quote. Schaefer's credibility was further tarnished when his security clearance got suspended in March of 2004, after an investigation that aimed to look into a, quote, pattern of misconduct, end quote, that, quote, include obtaining a service medal under false pretenses, improperly flashing a military identification while drunk, and stealing pens, end quote, during his deployment as a staff officer in Afghanistan. Captain Scott Philippid was unwilling to publicly share his findings, whilst a civilian contractor working for Able Danger claimed Atta's name appeared numerous times during the program's lifetime in relation to the blind sheik. Even though 4 more witnesses came forward claiming Atta's name was in the 1999 chart, some even remembering his photograph, no physical evidence of Atta's actual mention in the chart was ever provided. Spoiler alert, but the congressional hearings and the DoD's Inspector General report ultimately concluded Able Danger, quote, did not identify Mohamed Atta or any other 9/11 terrorists before the 9/11 attack, end quote. In addition, it was concluded that, quote, Able Danger members were not prohibited from sharing intelligence information with law enforcement or other agencies that could have acted on that information. In fact, Able Danger produced no actionable intelligence information, end quote. Despite this, former Able Danger members and Kurt Weldon continue supporting each other's claims, most recently in a 2025 PBD podcast episode featuring Weldon, Schaefer, and Klimesmith. For anyone interested in hearing their side of the story, I'd recommend checking it out. The story doesn't end here, however. There's been a lot of speculation about the fact that Able Danger might have actually identified Atta, but not the Mohamed Atta. Instead, it's widely speculated that it's Abu Nidal Atta that the program identified, the alleged militant from the Palestine Liberation Organization responsible for bombing a bus in 1986 on the West Bank. This theory is also viable because there was virtually no information on Mohamed Atta prior to May of 2000, when he received his US visa, meaning the supposed information sharing regarding Atta between Able Danger and the FBI in late 1999 and early 2000 was highly unlikely. it's safe to say that the existence of Able Danger and their supposed findings have contributed a lot to the overall spread and survival of 9/11 conspiracy theories. As one of the most theorized events in contemporary world history, it's no doubt that once Able Danger and their work became public knowledge, there was even more doubt regarding the government's official narrative about what happened on 9/11. Regardless of what you personally believe in, it's no doubt that had intelligence agencies maintained a healthier and more open relationship, an event like 9/11 likely never would have happened. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more niche and weird history topics that are yet to be covered. Until next time, diggers.